Welcome to the State of the Second podcast. My name is John, and today we're joined by Ryan Spadfore from Atrius Development Group. Ryan, how are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
What's up, brother? Hey, thanks for having me, man. This is awesome.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah, it's our first gun podcast, you know. A little bit about me. I'm one of the founders with my best friend, Malcolm, for Atrius Development Group. And I've been in the industry probably since I was 19, 20 years old. So I've been very versed in this industry as a whole. I was at a previous company where we launched almost 700 accessories when it came to, in support of some of kind of the biggest volume platforms in the market. And we're really passionate about, kind of pushing the envelope of the proliferation of our rights and emerging categories. So we were always on the hunt for basically the newest gun tech that we can kind of bring to market in the commercial space. And Atrius Development Group was kind of like our why behind the FRS, the Force Reset Selector, which if people not aware, it's a drop-in reverse compatible semi-automatic solution, which gives you the option of your safe semi, and then it gives you your third enhanced semi-automatic solution.
So what drove you to get into the industry? What drives you? What is your passion? And why are you continually doing this to innovate and do cool things?
Guns are like a pillar of my childhood. So I've always been a gun nerd. Me and Malcolm served in the military. My dad was ex-LAPD. And so I grew up shooting, and I've always had a deep, deep love for firearms. When I was a kid, it was mainly out of strictly love. And then obviously as time went on and I got older, you quickly realize how ingrained weapons is into our culture, right? So whether that's our cultural identity as Americans, whether it's politics or whatever, I've been blessed where at the time there was a startup by my where I lived and where I grew up, and I got in at the ground floor, and I've been blessed to be with one company basically for my entire career up until I started my own. And so with that, I got to do everything, and it all started from packing boxes, but my why is, I mentioned earlier when we were talking, I love this industry. It provided everything for me. I was able to, support a family and got me off the streets. So I have a big passion for what I do. And if I have the opportunity to move the gun culture in the right direction, trust me when I say me and the team are going to do exactly that.
So you're a gun nerd.
Yeah.
I have to ask, because we ask this for every person who says they're a gun nerd. What are your top 5?
Top 5 guns?
Oh yeah. Of all time.
All right. So one is the G3, an authentic HK G3, or the 91. That's it's mainly due to my childhood. Fun fact, my dad was in the Hollywood shooting, and so he watched them use the HK91 or the G3, so he was like, I need to go out and get that, So that's one of my favorite guns. To follow that, MP5, kind of a huge HK guy. And then your FAL, I like the P90. Gotta throw AR on there just because, come on, and then probably for your handgun, just a standard Smith & Wesson 38 snub nose.
Really?
Yeah. 2 of those guns are from my childhood. So, yeah.
Stockpiling ammo can be a daunting task and cost a lot of money. Bulk buying all at once, it just kills the savings account. Well, now Ammo Squared's got you covered. Just like a savings account, you can put a specific amount of money towards the type of calibers and type of ammo you want and build up an ammo savings account. They have a climate-controlled facility with over 70 different calibers. Guys, this is as simple as just plug and play and forget. And guys, if you don't need that ammo anymore, you can sell it back to Ammo Squared for a profit. Go to Ammo Squared right now to start your ammo savings account. So you grew up loving guns, your passion's there. you say you want to better the industry. What do you see that's going wrong in the industry? What can we fix? How do we can push forward not only as an industry to develop new products and be innovative, but also to push forward Second Amendment rights?
Yeah, I think there's actually a few. Pretty loaded question, but one of the best examples I use for people is like, when I was working in the industry and I would try to be collaborative and work with other brands and stuff, especially from an accessory perspective, when you're not in the regulated market, the accessory market's great because you're kind of an ally to everybody and an enemy to nobody, right? Like, so I can work with all the manufacturers out there. And that was always a really good position to be in. And I really enjoyed it. But when I was younger, when I would reach out to these companies, and this is mainly when like the old guard was in power, and I think that we're going through like a kind of like a cultural shift in the industry, which I'll get into. But, you'd reach out to these companies and it's like, hey man, I want to make an accessory for your magazine or your weapon or whatever. It was like over a decade ago. They'd be like, well, you can't do that because we'll come after you and sue you. Right. And it's like, dude, I'm just trying to make you, like, you aren't doing it. So why can't like we do it for you, right? Like all it's going to do is basically provide more value to your weapon system, to your magazine or whatever it is that we're working on. But then that shifted, right? And I'm not going to say that the brand per se in this example, but it went from over a decade ago, they didn't like that, right? Whereas now I would actually collaborate with a launch at them at scale, So it's kind of like the old guard is kind of like phasing out. And I think, especially for the political climate and how, discriminates, like, we're discriminated against, in business in this vertical, I would say, or at least that's been my experience. And I think people are starting to realize like you kind of have to like work together in order for everyone to win. And now with my own company, I've really been emphasizing kind of that messaging, because it's not, the gun culture, it's bigger than just like your product and your brand, right? It's, it affects everyone, and so no matter how small the part is or how big it is, it all kind of plays into the fabric of the gun culture as a whole. And I knew that when I was young. I knew we were like always pulling on the thread of something, even if it was just something small. I just didn't really realize how big it was, really until I started, kind of Atrius, to be honest, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the funny part is, when I started in the industry, I felt the same kind of thing. And as time has gone on and the collaborative between companies, the funny part is when I talk to people outside the industry, they're like, oh, so-and-so must hate so-and-so because of, no, we're all friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all friends and that's what we do. And the driving, I want to ask you is, because I came from the accessory world as well. It was hard at first and then things started coming up. And we were doing a lot of cool stuff. What do you think drove the shift from that into the accessory market, and especially now with the FRSs? What is driving that shift into also that as an accessory for all these firearms?
Yeah, well, I think the accessory market really came into play because in the beginning, it was actually due out of compliance, at least in my anecdotal experience, right? So for an example, you take a few restricted states. I could pick on California, which is easy to do. A lot of the big manufacturers actually signed off the state because they didn't want to deal with the compliance aspect, right? What most people don't know is California, Texas, and Florida are the biggest three gun states in the union, right? So even though California is messed up in a lot of ways, in more ways than one, there's a huge gun population there, right? And so we designed a lot of the compliance solutions to inject as many ARs as we possibly could for a lot of these manufacturers. So we would bridge the gap, right? So compliance is definitely one aspect. And then two, when it comes to the big manufacturers, you got to think how much resources and how many teams are involved into building a weapon system. The last thing they want to deal with is worry about a brace or worry about something, right? Because they already have so much to worry about to make sure they bring a reliable weapon system to market that you can depend on, right? And so I found this kind of cool position in the market where, I encourage every weapon manufacturer is like, make the best weapon system in relation to your category, and then I can augment that, right? Like we basically just serve as an extension to your product development team, and we just fill in on the gaps on whatever the development process needs, right? And I would say for me, the biggest accessory that ever came to market was the SB Tactical, right? And so for all intents and purposes, it did what? Basically legalized SBRs for the average man. And so there was like a really big cultural shift with that, right? Because that gave birth to the AR-15 pistol, you know, which was really cool to see. So, and that was kind of my goal, you know, like I wanted to create the next SB Tactical. I just didn't know what that meant because I was just so young at the time, but I saw what that accessory did for the culture and the market as a whole, right? Because I mean, look at it today, right? What do you see? We see every manufacturer have some sort of AR-15 pistol, like weapon line, right? Even if you go back a little bit further than that, you could take the suppressors as an example, which I've used before. You know, SHOT Show didn't even allow suppressor brands in the early 2000s. You know, this is long before you and I's time. You know, you and I are around the same age, but so you can see the cultural shift is happening, right? Like, there's nothing but suppressors. We have, you know, amazing suppressor brands out there putting out good work. We have AR-15 pistols, and then, you know, we believe kind of the force reset, you know, category is kind of like that next kind of shift, you know.
With the FRSs and how they've been developed over the last, I mean, blew up over the last 6 months, really. You know, where do you see, you're seeing all these platforms get new FRSs. Where do you see this going? Is it we're going to build this into such a big thing that they can't fight us against us anymore on this?
Yeah. So our singular focus is to really just make an impact, right? And there's a lot of blessings that come with that, but there's also a lot of consequences, right? So it's a pretty big task. We want to recreate, basically, like I said, an SB scenario where we want to make this common use. So we're hitting the biggest addressable market as a whole, and we were able to get it adopted very, very quickly. The only thing that Malcolm and I miscalculated, I would say, is probably the timeline at which it happened. You know, I knew we were going to get targeted. I knew all these things were going to happen. I just thought it was going to happen over the course of like 2 years, you know. We were able to basically make it happen in like 6 months, you know. Where I see it sticking in the long term, I know people judge us on the surface thinking it's like a flash in the pan and all this stuff, but you know, the industry needs to do a good job at like supporting good brands out there that are really fighting for your rights, you know, and like kind of putting where your mouth is, you know what I'm saying? So we want to kind of be what's missing and really want to get this to stay for the long term. That's the goal, you know. That's why we encourage other manufacturers to kind of jump in the category, because as long as other people are, you know, covering other platforms that may fall out of our scope right now, it's a net win for everybody. You know what I mean? And it's really, from what I can see, the only category, at least this last year, that isn't really experiencing the Trump slump, you know, so well enough that like, you know, there's second and third effects of what we've done, right? Like we have dealers call us, tell us like, hey, Ryan, I just want you to know, like, your product is doing so well, I don't have to lay off my team, right? Like, think about how impactful that is for like your you know, your mom and pop shop down the street. You know what I'm saying? And so that matters, bro. Like, you know, and so no matter where you're at in the industry, whether you're an influencer, you work out of manufacturing, your product development, it's like everyone's like kind of collective effort all matters in the grand scheme of things. You know, it's just, I knew that, I just now experience it because everything is so sensitive to us right now, you know, which is a good thing because like we have a ground, you know, really grounded in the vertical, especially how things are moving, you know. But the more accessible that these accessories are in the float, it's a compliance solution. We follow the letter of the law, you know, and there's a lot of people that may not like it, but I don't care, you know, like we have our stance and we're going to stand behind that, especially as long as we have kind of support of the people in order to like basically keep the fight up, you know. But we kind of understand the game that we're in. And I think unfortunately for Malcolm and I think our lives are going to definitely have changed forever, you know, with everything going on. But it's a good opportunity, man. It really is.
No, I can agree more. Now we see how the accessory market has affected firearms being in production from the factory. We've seen it with comps, which are blowing up.
Yeah.
We've seen it with SB braces. Do you foresee anything changing on the FRT side from them?
Yeah. I mean, look what happened to the braces, right? Like, you know, they went through the whole motion, they legalized it, all the stuff. And then one day they just turned them off. Right. But this is the game we play, right? Like there's always changes going on in the market. The question is like, how fast and how hard can we capitalize on something, you know? And that's really what it is, you know, like at the end of the day, me and my buddy just thought we were working on something cool. We didn't know that we were going to, you know, kind of rally the whole vertical around us to, you know, really kind of hopefully finish a fight that started, you know. Shout out to Tim Hoffman and Hoffman Tactical, you know, because the community is really what kind of carried us through some crazy obstacles, bro, you know, like, and I'll say this time and time again, like me and Malcolm are smart, we may be hardworking, we have things that like are going for us, but without God, brother, like none of this would have happened, bro.
As liberty-loving Americans, we know how important it is to put your money where your values are, and that is why we are proud to partner with Right to Bear. Right to Bear is a cornerstone in the community for self-defense protection, and we are proud to be offering an exclusive discount.
Use code GOA at checkout to save 15% off the lifetime of your membership. Again, that's code GOA to save 15% off on the lifetime of your membership. I also want to touch on something that I know it doesn't affect your product directly, but you did mention California as one of the largest markets.
Yeah.
And just recently we saw California just ban accessories.
Yep.
And we've seen them, companies who I've talked to in bigger brands, and I won't name their name, large online presence,
Yep.
going, this was a huge portion. Some of them said anywhere between 11 to 20% of their sales for the year were going through California.
Absolutely.
How do we get to those folks in California and combat this nonsense? Just because it's becoming too difficult with the restrictions that are there, with the compliance that are there, to get even the simplest things as barrels, parts, accessories into those states.
Yep. First and foremost, you have to support the dealer, right? So any problem sets that persist in their world, we got to be able to support like kind of the supply chain to get there. And now there's going to be obstacles in order to do that, whether it's, you know, the legal aspect. You know, it's funny because I kind of built a good network, you know, just in my career within the state of California. And obviously due to the politics, it's driving people away. Right. And people are fleeing, you know, the gun business, and rightly so. But the guys that actually ended up just like bunkering down are capitalizing because now there's only so many dealers, right? So they're soaking up that market share. But at the end of the day, bro, like the politics in states like that, which is a really good case study to kind of see what's to come, because that's our goal, dude, right? Like they literally, you know, regardless of what political side you're on, whether you're left or right, is irrelevant. I believe weapons is an apolitical stance because everyone should have the right to firearms. But outside of that, the system is weaponized against like the gun culture, right? And it's hard to explain that to people because like it's hard to have any type of common ground with other entrepreneurs like in other industries because you don't have to deal with the stuff we have to deal with, right? Whether you're getting debanked, fintech companies don't support you, even marketing agencies like, oh, you do guns, we don't want to mess with you. And that's like downstream of what happens in states like California. But it all starts obviously at the legislation level to make sure at least there's organizations out there that are trying to, you know, kind of support the business aspect to it, you know, because if this keeps going, all it's doing is basically reinforcing the culture even stronger. So there's pros and cons, but it's also reinforcing states that, you know, because you're taking good jobs and good business and now you're placing it in just a more gun friendly state, you know, but it's difficult. It's difficult for a lot of guys out there, you know, and it sucks.
Yeah. And I love how you're also talking about the Trump slump. And we, through GOA, we have our Caliber Club, which we helped some of these FFL dealers during COVID by getting home high margin products like t-shirts and things like that, things they could sell.
Yep.
Your product is now helping people out with this impact that we're seeing with, I mean, everybody knows once the rights aren't threatened, people don't buy guns. I'm sorry. I'm just going to break the fourth wall for some of these people who don't understand that. But you guys are putting into a category where it's up, and how does that feel for you to know that you're saving some of these mom and pops and these dealers that are being just forced out because they just can't sell them?
Yeah. It's amazing, bro. You know, like to be able to have the opportunity to kind of help spearhead that, you know, I don't want to like take all credit by any means, but there's definitely a collective of people that are doing really good work and reinforcing the culture in the industry at the business level. And it's really, really cool to see. I never thought I would, see my kind of product in thousands of dealers kind of, all over the country. Right. And knowing that they're able to like keep food on the table of their team in a market like this, like you can't put a price on that, bro. And that's what I mean. There's second and third effects about what we all do together. Cause it goes far beyond just the value you provide like immediately to your company. Right. Like, so we need to like mutually support each other in that aspect. You know what I mean? And my goal in the future, I would like to get more on the advocacy front to help open up additional markets, so people can also benefit as well, but, yeah, it's been really cool to see.
No, and I love hearing that because a lot of people don't understand with the rise of online shopping and everything like that, people don't understand that the brick and mortar is the lifeblood of this industry. Without those guys, we don't have a lot of the things we can have as an industry. It'll just, especially with the margins we're dealing with, we're just going to be wiped out.
Exactly. So, always support your local dealer, guys.
I love that. I love that you said that because a lot of people don't understand that anymore.
No, dude, you got to create something where, people have this mindset where it's like, it's a give and take. And I don't come from that world. I believe there's a win-win scenario basically in any situation you're in, maybe hard to find it, right? But it's there. The win-win scenario is out there for everyone. And so that's kind of how we built the business model kind of backwards, to make sure that it's a net win for everybody, it doesn't matter how high or how low it is, in that scale of the industry, but, it's been working very, very well too.
So you mentioned that you want to get more into advocacy and things like that. What is driving that advocacy side of you?
I mean, probably the last 13 years of my life. I also had just poor experience with just government overreach in general in my individual life. And so that's where it comes from, right? And that's why I was talking about like the paradigm between left and right is almost void in my book, because regardless of people's opinions, everyone collectively can look at our culture in America and be like, things just aren't really adding up these days, And COVID was a really good example, right? Like it drove people that weren't gun people towards guns. Why? Because when they call 911, it's going to take 45 minutes to come to your house, right? With all these riots and all this stuff going on, right? So yeah, unfortunately, I think there is a side of this industry historically where fear is a driving, it was a fear-based market. But we got to like flip that upside on its head, that can't be the reason why, whether it's threat from an administration or threat from this, kind of got like flip it on its head and literally like, for how cheesy it sounds, like love is the business model, right? You create a win-win for scenario where everyone gets to win. You get to participate in their rights. Like that's kind of like the game we have to play in order like for us to win. Yeah.
So I was talking with somebody earlier and we were trying to define when the really big anti-gun rhetoric has been pushed, and we've come down to basically pinpointing it to the assault weapons ban and everything like that. But now with the rise of new gun ownership, how do we get those new gun owners who are on the fringe to now join the grassroots effort and fight for their rights where they really just didn't understand and it was just out of fear at first?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the fact that like Americans just don't like being told what to do. Right. And so, and this is both sides of the spectrum. I think everyone is now coming to the conclusion, because like the gun culture is like now more diverse now more than ever, especially since as of late. Right. Like, and it's one of the things where I actually see diversity truly work in the sense that like, it's no longer, one demographic at the type of people. We have all types. We're all Americans, right? And sometimes that's like unfathomable for people to understand, especially as we get legal immigrants that come here with their green card. Like, do you understand how taboo it is, dude? Like we are an incredible country, right? You have a guy that leaves from wherever he is to come here and becomes a citizen. And it's like, oh, hey, by the way, man, like here's a land of opportunity and you're allowed to defend yourself with weapons. And they're like, what? Are you for real? It's like, yeah, dog, go pick up your AR-15 and your Glock, homie. Stay strapped.
No, it's so true. It's funny how I worked behind the gun counter for a while. And when we would get people who had either just become citizens or were here and doing the legal visa thing with buying guns, I would always ask them, what drove you to do this? And they were like, yeah, we didn't have this. This is something new to me. I want to have fun. I want to do this. And I also saw it working at ranges where people would come in, oh, I want to shoot for the first time and then learn and have fun.
Absolutely.
And that's the cool thing about being a firearms owner or being somebody who's in the guns is not only the fun aspect, but you're also taking the personal responsibility of defending yourself in your hands. And I think that's a new concept to a lot of the people who've come from overseas because they never had that opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, you can even go a little bit deeper where like, anecdotally in my experience, I've been blessed to do a lot of the international business, right? So like the modern world views America as the gun store of the planet, right? So anytime there's a police agency or a military unit getting spun up, they're going to come to America because we are kind of the tip of the spear when it comes to, everything, training, gear, etc. I envy the people that live a world where they feel like they don't need a weapon. I envy you, right? Like I wish I come from that world. Unfortunately, I have been in these territories and these countries where, trust me when I say, people wish that they had access to this type of, like, basically have access to these types of rights, man. Yeah, because it's very real. Because the rest of the world, you have the haves and have-nots, and there's no in between. Whereas everyone here, there's an in between, and there's a good in between.
No, it's absolutely true. I mean, what's the best way to say it? Armed society is a polite society.
It is, dude.
And
it is.
We're seeing it now.
Yeah. But the politics and like the media, they do a really good job on shifting that perspective. Like they warlock people's minds into, what is good is now bad and what is bad is now good. It's the same thing around the gun culture. But it's pretty indicative where, like, once you kind of track what they're doing, it's like, okay, clearly, the backstop to everything is weapons, man. Like, and I know we talk about like, hunting and self-defense and all this stuff, but like it's really not even about that. The Second Amendment is strictly about overthrowing a tyrannical government. That's the whole sole purpose. And if we lose sight of that, there's dire consequences that come with that, dire. And obviously people probably think I'm crazy when I say that, but like, that's the whole reason why I was here to begin with. So why don't we just lean into like what it was designed for and be bold about it? Like, I think everyone has an obligation to understand where it comes from, because it's not just about hunting.
No. And that's always the thing that makes me mad is when you talk to somebody and they're like, I'm a gun owner and I support the Second Amendment, but
yeah,
once you hit that but, it's like, no, you guys got to understand. These guys thought it was so important they made it number 2. Number 1, you could say whatever you want. Number 2, hey, you got the right to back it up.
There's no buts here. No, it's true, man. And I mentioned this before, but the cool thing is like there's fresh blood coming in and there's a new shift in the gun culture. We definitely see it. We talked about it earlier. It's like the renaissance of guns, and it's definitely true. But in the beginning, like I always had a use case for everything that we brought to market, right? But when it came to the FRS, it was kind of hard because I didn't really have a use case. So then I was just like, well, at the end of the day, like people can go have fun. They can experience a new enhanced, shooting capability that they never experienced before. But I also I don't need to tell you a why, right? Like it's the Bill of Rights, not the Bill of Needs. Like I don't need to tell you what I decide to defend my family, defend my community, what I have in my gun locker. I don't need to tell you why I need it. I could just want it. I could just want to have fun with my friends,
I think that's the biggest thing that gets me is like people will ask, why the why. There's always the why do you have this or why do you want this? Bro, it's cool. Bro, it's fun.
Sometimes it's just sick, bro.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It can be, and that was always, so I've told this on the podcast before, but because you're new, I get to have fun telling this again. So I worked at Faxon, and bright-eyed, bushy-tailed me getting things done.
Were you still a redhead?
Oh yeah. Still
yeah.
redhead. We're having a meeting and they're like, we need a new product. And I'm like, we're making aftermarket high point barrels. And they're like, dude, that's stupid. I'm like, no, it's not. Think about it. It'll cost more than the gun. It's a great marketing scheme. And they're like, who's going to buy it? People. They're like, how many people? A lot of them. They're like, that's not real numbers. I'm like, bro, just let's make 50 and just try it out and do aftermarket high point sights. And they're like, who's buying this? I'm like, people. They're
There's
like,
people
why?
out there.
There's people
so
out-
many high points in the market, bro.
Bro, high point FRS. Just saying, put it out there. Shout out to, see, that's what I love about, there's people in this industry, and I don't think you're one of them, that take themselves too serious.
No, not at all.
They've got to stick up their butt. And
I'm half, to be honest. Sorry, I don't think I used to say that.
So am I. But there's people with sticks up their butt, and they're like, oh, we got to be like this. We got to have this case wise, and it's got to be tactical, and it's got to be cool, and we're so and so, and this is what we do for generations. And then there's High Point, who takes nothing seriously and has so much fun. And I think you're in the same boat. You're like, this is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It is fun. Like, especially because SHOT Show was the first mainstream. Actually, it was our first event as a company under my own banner. And so we went in unsure on how we were going to be perceived, right? Just because there was a lot of like going on in that 6 months buildup heading into the show. But bro, the amount of love and support that we had, like, we were in the basement. I didn't think anyone would find us. Like, our booth was just stacked. Even at the range day, we had a line out the door. We got this technical. I don't know if you saw it. We got like this Jap truck with a mounted gun on it. And it was so awesome, right? And like just seeing everyone like so stoked on everything was like amazing to see. You know what I mean? Granted, there's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure on Malcolm and I, but like I will burden anything in order to like keep this growing, and that's what it kind of turned into, right? Like, it's basically like a freedom operation at scale, is like what it kind of turned into. And so it's really cool to see, man. And it's all about having fun too. You got to have fun along the way. It's not necessarily the destination. It's definitely the journey. But I think the industry did like, definitely in the past, they did a good job on like, I don't want to say gatekeeping, but it's like, hey, if you weren't a MARSOC Raider or a Navy SEAL or a Green Beret, it's like, you can't have access, not like explicitly saying that, but like, you have nods and plate carriers. It's like, no, dude, normalize this stuff, normalize this capability, normalize the gear, normalize the equipment, open it up for everybody. And have fun with your friends, dude. Don't take things too seriously. I think PSR does a really good job at that, and he just brings a really good comedic relief to kind of the gun culture and kind of breaks the walls down where it's not so serious, right? There's times to be serious, especially if it's in a use case where you have to support, units at that caliber. There's definitely a need for that. But in the commercial space, it's kind of cool breaking those walls down and creating like a more positive environment. Cause that's what it's about, man,
No, I totally agree. And I think the big thing is, and I'm going to ask you this question, is you had this did you have a preconceived notion that there was going to be an old guard or people at certain events that are just going to be like, who needs an FRT? Why do I need an FRS? Why do I need this? Why do I need that? And now you've done the event and it seems like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah. Mainly the community, like the community came out in full force, bro. Like you gotta understand, like me and Malcolm didn't have much money. We put our lives into this, and this was the response. And so we even had the community like rally around us where they were like we didn't have all the money in the world to T&E this on every single thing out there. The community was doing it for us. So we were just getting inundated with data sets and people trying to help us, and like anytime we had an issue, we even had people like reach out like, hey, I work at this company. We can help you with this, it was really cool. And especially at SHOT Show, we got to see it like in real time. It wasn't just like emails and DMs, that was like the thing. It was like, sometimes you live in the digital world, especially when you're in your own trench, kind of like paving out something relatively new. And then you show up and it's manifested in reality, and like, it hits a little bit different, and then you can kind of really see kind of maybe the gravity of the situation as well. Right. So, we did a really remarkable job on like getting this into second step distribution, getting it into premier online retailers, building out a dealer network. And it was kind of cool to kind of see everything kind of come full circle that week for us, and it was a huge win for just like the team, from the start, right? Like there was a lot of hard work, bro, a lot of long days. And the entrepreneurial journey through this whole experience, is unique in its own right. But we navigated all the obstacles that were put in front of us. And, I credit the community and the people that kind of rallied behind us in order to do that, So, being able to help kind of push the envelope of, product development to really bring, kind of cool products to market that get people excited. Like it's doable. It's possible. It falls even outside of kind of like the force reset category in its whole, right? There's a lot of opportunity out there. And I think people just need to remember that.
All right. I'm going to ask you this question. You can tell me if you want to answer it or not. Okay. So we've seen companies that have pushed the envelope and we know we have the legal precedent right now.
Correct.
But we've seen the Brace stuff. We've seen the attacks on our friend Dave.
Yep.
Do you have a fear in the back of your head on, do they come after us? And if they do, how do you protect your customers as well?
Yeah. We did drop a press release where, we're in full support of kind of our dealer network, to get started, but there are bad actors out there in this vertical, right? Like, and I think the lines are pretty clear where a lot of people talk in this industry, I think it's different when, you actually, perform, performance is the gold standard. So I could come on a podcast and people can talk all they want, but it's like, just view the actions of companies and what they do and how they behave in a vertical. And then you can decide on like what you want to side with, I'm not here to win anyone over. I'm just here to do what I believe is right at the end of the day. And I will continue to do so. Fortunately, when people do kind of poor actions out there, it's really just reinforcing kind of our success,
If you're like me, you are probably slightly addicted to your phone, and that means it is incredibly important who you choose as your cell phone provider.
And now it's time to switch your cell phone service over to Patriot Mobile, a freedom-loving brand that supports the Second Amendment and GOA's mission.
I am a customer of Patriot Mobile as well as a big fan because Patriot Mobile not only gives great nationwide coverage from the top 3 carriers, but they also support the Second Amendment.
Patriot Mobile is super easy to switch to. It only takes a couple minutes. You can keep your phone, keep your number, and they have a full US-based customer service.
This is why we are proud to be offering 1 month free service plus 15% off of every line with Patriot Mobile when you use code GOA.
Again, that's patriotmobile.com/GOA and use code GOA at checkout to get 1 month free and save 15% off on each additional line. We are at the closing part of this, so we have our last segment, which is our From the Soapbox segment. That's where we get real spicy. So
how spicy are we talking?
As spicy as you want to get, my friend. The spicier the better. This is a whole segment that we do just to get hot and spicy. So do you have a spicy take for us?
When you say spicy take, like in regards to,
so we loop this around like anything policy driven, anything, your biggest frustrations, gripes with the ATF, politicians, etc. Like as spicy as you want to be, because we do a full clip of this at a week.
All right. Well, my hot take is that Malcolm and I are 2A absolutionists, and the whole purpose around the Second Amendment, right, is for when the government fucks with you, you're allowed to fuck back. That's essentially what it's about.
I don't disagree. I'm with you on that. I'm 100% with you on that.
It's basically it, yeah, man, I think it's an exciting time, especially in modern culture in our country right now. And I think the gun industry as a whole is going to be really effective in the coming years in our country, whether that's moving the culture, pushing the people in the right direction when it comes to the proliferation of our rights. And I'm just excited, honestly. It's going to be a good, fun 2026. It's already getting pretty spicy, brother.
No, I know. I mean, you're absolutely right. Everything you said is absolutely right. As we look at 2026 for this year, what do you forecast is going to be the biggest mover for you guys, and how do you see this category growing over the year?
Yeah, I think just getting it more into the mainstream. I'm even, helping adjacent products around us. And that's what's great about being a selector and not a trigger, is that we're a force multiplier for everybody, right? So like what I mean by that is all the triggers that we're compatible with, right? A lot of them are selling out quick, right? Heavier buffers are selling out, and what's great about us is that like we don't need to modify anything or tweak anything. It's truly drop in or reverse compatible. And people really, really like that. And so everything around us, including ourselves, is kind of just increasing the tide. So high tides raise all ships kind of mentality, and really just making this a prevalent category that is moving. And I want to see it in more, product lines in support of more weapon systems, more distributors, more dealers across the country, because we follow the letter of the law, and that's what we kind of want to see happen. And we're doing a really good job of making that happen. But the end goal is common use. Got it. Like that's the end goal, We basically just assault the vertical as hard as we can together. Right. And so I encourage anyone out there that is a supporter of what we do and what has our products, I encourage you to showcase to any homie that has a gun, your community, your ranges, right? Like that's how we kind of like beat the system a little bit. We're shadow banned, but we're doing a pretty good job on the grassroots support, and so just word of mouth, believe it or not, it's actually been the biggest force multiplier for us. So
I love it. What do you think? So we've seen, I've seen what M&P this year. We saw the TX22. I've heard inklings of a P90. So what do you think is going to be the top ones that everyone's going to go after this year?
Well, there's a lot of brands out there doing a lot of cool things. For us, I look at it from a perspective of, what is the biggest addressable market, right? Like if I magically had 300,000 units in a pile in front of us, it's like, where can we dump that? So right now I'm hyper focused on one weapon system. We plan on having a FRS kind of ecosystem. And then that will be able to fund other projects. But a lot of good companies are out there doing really cool stuff, and they're hitting platforms that there are a ton in the market, right? So again, that's just an added value add for the market as a whole, So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
No, you're good.
Yeah,
that's a great answer.
Yeah.
My question to you is then, as the popularity and rise of FRSs has continued to go, how do you think the industry will respond?
Well, we've actually been seeing it, right? So the industry is responding by tailoring solutions. So in the beginning, there's a lot of cultural resistance in a lot of ways. But now that we kind of did a really good job winning the culture over and the vertical over, now people are tailoring new products to us, right? Where they want to make sure that they're compatible with the selector, right? Now it comes down whether it's a trigger or whether it's some of these BCG houses and stuff like that. And then in the long term, it's going to happen soon, by the way, guys, so just keep your eye out on it. But we will have a series of manufacturers that will run this in an inline SKU support, which is really going to be the biggest needle that pushes, the right direction. So imagine, you go to your dealer and there's just a weapon system, with an FRS in it. That's what you guys will see it come very soon. Yeah. So
dope.
It's going to be sick, dude. It's going to be super sick.
I'm so pumped for you guys, because this is something that, I've been wanting, and I want to see this grow, and I want to see how, like you said, get it into common use.
Yep.
And get the fight going, because this is just the first step in many.
Yeah. And as long as we all just kind of just have a solid establish just a solid front together, we can make it happen. The thing is though, is like the reason why it's like hard is that anyone can kind of jump in the category and like, you'll be successful, right? Like a machine shop could go and make a couple thousand used to sell it, whatever. It's not going to work at that level though. You know what I'm saying? Like everything on the surface, the hype, the success, all that, bro, that's a byproduct of what the goal is. You have to literally carpet bomb the entire vertical in order for this to happen, right? At scale, So like our team is all in 24/7 of every day. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, this is different for us, dude. Like the way Malcolm and I look at it, bro, we literally like gambled our lives, So like we wake up every day in a do or die environment, especially with everything that's kind of going on around us. You know what I mean? So like it's different for us, but it has to be done at that level. And there has to be that level of seriousness in order to attack it, because that's where we're going to end up at. And honestly, if we do a well enough job, it could happen this year. And then now we actually have a case, guys, and like, this is a hill that we're going to die on.
No, I love that.
I can say this though, like it's funny though, because like, God bless Dave, and I have a lot of people around me, and I've been around the industry long enough where I've seen companies do good things and I've seen them do poor things, right? So it was a blessing in my youth to kind of be around and watch some of these bigger pieces kind of get moved around. So I like to think I know what not to do, but some people are concerned like about me from a position of love, but like, what's worst case that's going to happen? Like you're going to take my small house and my paid off Tacoma. Like I'll just restart my life, dude. I don't care. Like you got to play for keeps in this game. You know what I mean?
For what people don't know, Dave, who we're referring to, is David's Matador Arms. And you can look into his backstory and everything like that. But just talking to him and seeing what he went through, I mean, he was not apologetic. He would do it 10 times out of 10 again. Yep. And I think that's what I really appreciate about you is you have the same passion as he did.
Yeah. Well, I looked up to Dave, honestly, my whole career, bro. I did one of my projects with him. We released a P80, frame together. And again, I was in the same position that I'm in today. Right. There was a lot of premier online retailers that didn't want to onboard it. Right. But if I onboarded with me, it was a net positive for him. Right. So it's like I was always like at the table to kind of push the needle a little bit. This is just, Atrius is just doing that at scale. I never had that opportunity before. Right. That's what's different. But I've had multiple reps over and over and over and over. And so I feel like that was just kind of just like my pipeline of training and preparation, for us to do it as big as we possibly can with this, so.
Well, that's the thing that I'm loving right now. And this is what I learned. So I was in sales for a long time, and then I went over to the marketing side because that's what I'm more passionate about. And I'm loving how it went from everybody hating each other to now we have banded together as an industry and been like, bro, tides rise all ships. Yes. We got to get together. We got to collaborate. We got to do this. We know that we're getting shadow banned. Let's collaborate and do this. I mean, it's
also a demographic thing too, though, right? Like, we're all in our 30s now, and we were raised in this industry, and we kind of see how like things were poorly done. And so now all of us get to like kind of correct that wrong. Right. And so now, especially now more than ever, it's like the politics have balkanized the battle lines for us, dude. It's no longer like smoke and mirrors. We know exactly like who the adversaries are. And sometimes they're in our own vertical, bro. Right. And that's what's cool to see. So I just keep reminding myself, like, if we're getting this type of resistance, it just means that we're on the right path, bro. That's what it really means.
Oh yeah. 100%. It's just seeing, I mean, look at 10 years ago. Let's just look at 10 years ago. Would you see a company put like here's an example, because it was in SHOT Show's top of mind. Would you see Radiant and Canic team up 10 years ago? Would you see anybody team up together 10 years ago? Would you see, working people working together to come up with products that are intermingled and SKUs that are intermingled, we wouldn't see that.
No.
And now we're seeing the drive of the accessory market drive the industry into actually doing innovative, cool stuff, which we've never seen before. The biggest complaint, I'm going to go on a rant, so you could interrupt me when you want.
Run it, brother.
My biggest problem is for years, all we've said as an industry, we want innovation. We want innovation. What is innovation? What is teaming up? What is this? And the accessory market would adjust to some of the stuff. And then the industry would be like, yeah, maybe we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Not to call out it because I'm loving what I'm seeing right now. But, but the collaborative stuff and the innovation stuff, like now I'm actually seeing and happy to see things come out where I think we were on a good track up until about 2019, 2020. And then it was, you could sell whatever the heck you wanted.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, well, things aren't selling as hot like they were. So now we got to actually do something.
For sure. Yeah. And, you know, because I was kind of one of the guys in the shotgun seat during that time, it really just came down to this. It's like you had camps of people that were really good at one thing and they weren't good at another. So it's like, why don't we just, you know, kind of enable each other, just maximize our strengths, right? And then that's a great partnership, you know? And that's where the accessory market like really filled in on those gaps for a lot of those, you know, I call them blue chip manufacturers, right? A lot of the big whales out there, you know? And it was a net win for them because, you know, they don't have to assign a project manager and a whole team to develop one thing when you have something that's readily accessible that fits the need immediately, or you can make something completely unique to them and tailor the solution to them. So it's really cool to kind of see the collaboration efforts. And again, that creates that win-win scenario that I was talking about, you know? And so I'd always try to find that like throughout my whole entire career during that process. And it's great to see other brands doing the same thing and taking the same mindset and applying it to their business model. And at the end of the day, dude, you're, you know, bringing something to market that, you know, the end user wants, right? Like doesn't get any more bigger of a win than that.
Well, I agree to that. My gripe that I always have is like the firearm space until recently was like, oh, our consumers don't know what they want. We tell them what they want. And now we're like because the aftermarket space, listen to the consumers.
Yep.
I mean, lightning cuts on slides, optics ready, porting, comps, FRSs, all this stuff. Yep. Like,
the only downside, which you're right, like it takes, that's why it's kind of nice being like a smaller, nimble brand. So it's like, you're still big enough where you could still, you know, you could throw a good punch if you need to, but like you're still fast enough where it doesn't take, you know, 6 months to make a left turn on like a decision. Right. So typically the manufacturers at that level, just because they mainly have so much going on and a lot of red tape, bureaucracy, all these things, it takes a longer to them to adapt to the market, is what I've seen, you know. Granted, there's some brands out there that can help speed that process up. There's some good talent out there, whether if you have the skill set to speed that talent, you know, speed that process up. It's easier said than done, but yeah, I agree with you though, for sure.
I could go on a rant for an hour because I feel like everybody calls each other and it's like 1 year it's lever guns, the next year it's 2011, the next year after that. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Let's be a little bit different.
Exactly.
Let's try something. But all right, I'm getting the wrap up sign. So before we go, first off, I want to thank you for being on the show. As a thank you, we have our gift for our guest sponsored by Palmetto State Armory. So you'll be receiving something after the show from PSA. So thank you, PSA.
PSA, thank you. We got to talk soon.
Go ahead and shout out where people can find you, how they can get a hold of you, all that fun stuff.
Our Instagram handle is Atrius Dev. Yeah, you guys can shoot us a follow, spread the word, and kind of just get in the weeds on our content, what we're about. Yeah, guys, we appreciate you. Appreciate you having me on, man. Truly.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a 5-star review on all podcasting hosts. Get your tickets for Goals 2026 GOA's 50th anniversary celebration happening in Des Moines, Iowa, August 1st and 2nd. And we'll catch you on the next episode.
Stay blessed.